Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, following the Montreal Canadiens' 4-0 loss on home ice to the Ottawa Senators. Knock, knock. Do you want to hear a joke? The Montreal Canadiens, that's your joke. Unbelievable. What a joke. In the last week, the Canadiens got destroyed by the Winnipeg Jets, 5-0 on home ice. They got destroyed by Calgary by a score of 4-1. And they get destroyed by the Ottawa Senators on home ice again by a score of 4-0. The three worst performances the Canadiens have had this season have come in the last week. And this joke just keeps on getting less funny every time or more funny, depending how you look at it. So here we go. Knock, knock. Do you want to hear a joke? Versus the Ottawa Senators, the second worst team in the league, the Canadiens had one shot after 15 minutes of play. Knock, knock. Do you want to hear another joke? After the first period, the Montreal Canadiens had 3 shots on goal. Knock, knock. Do you want to hear another joke? The Canadiens had less than 30 shots again, 23 to be precise, 23 versus, once again, the second worst team in the league. They had less than 30 shots for 5 straight games. Knock, knock. Do you want to hear another joke? The Montreal Canadiens won on the power play 4 times versus the Ottawa Senators, and they scored 0 times versus the worst penalty kill team in the entire National Hockey League. Have you had enough of the jokes? I got more of them. I feel like a funny guy tonight. Knock, knock. In the last 11 games, the Montreal Canadiens have scored 2 goals in their last 31 attempts on the power play. 2 in their last 11. Knock, knock. You want to hear a joke? The Montreal Canadiens were shut out by a goalie whose last shutout was October 26th, 2019. That's a year and a half. They have lost 5 games to the second worst team in the league the Canadiens have. That second worst team in the league is the Ottawa Senators, who, had they not played the Montreal Canadiens and would have played another team, the Senators would be the worst team in the National Hockey League. The Montreal Canadiens have lost 5 of their last 8 games. You want to continue to hear more jokes? The top 60 point getters in the National Hockey League. You're not going to find the Montreal Canadiens on that list. Their highest paid player, who makes $10.5 million per season, gave up 3 goals versus the second worst team in the league on home ice on 14 shots. And you want to hear the best part? They tried to spot him. Listen, don't listen to what anybody tells you. If Carey Price was ready to play or cleared to play on Saturday afternoon at a 4 o'clock start, you're not going to tell me that he wasn't going to be good enough to play the night before a 6 p.m. start. But you know what? They knew they were in tough against Calgary. God forbid you put in Carey Price and he gets lit up by the Calgary Flames in what was the Canadiens' game of the year. So you know what? Let's spot him versus Ottawa. They stink. And versus Ottawa, he's going to play well and they're going to win. And they lost. Their goalie, who makes $10.5 million a year, who was signed to an 8-year, $84 million deal, no movement clause, is 30th in the league in goals against average. You want to hear another joke? One of the goalies who has a better goals against average than him is like 35 or 36 years old. And this organization, the Montreal Canadiens, traded him away 11 years ago. And today he makes like $8+ million less on the cap than the guy the Canadiens kept, who has worse stats than the guy they traded 11 years ago. You want to hear another joke? There are 52 goalies in the National Hockey League that have a better save percentage than Carey Price, who's the highest paid goalie in the league. When I went to look up the stats, and I went to NHL.com, he wasn't on the first page. You want to know why? Because the first page only has the top 50 goalies in the National Hockey League for save percentage. So I had to go to the second page. I had to go to the second page. You want to hear another joke? Their second highest paid forward on the team, who makes $5.5 million per season, who was signed to a 6-year deal, $33 million contract the second they got here. They gave him that contract, and we're going to put a statue of you in front of the Bell Center too. Maybe one day, maybe not. Has 2 goals in 42 games. 2 goals in 42 games. That's 2 goals more than me, and I weigh 270 pounds. Knock, knock. Do you want to hear another joke? The Montreal Canadiens fired a coach who won 9 of 18 games, and his replacement has won 10 of 24 games. You want to add up the joke? They have won 19 games, and they've lost 23 games. But the best part is that they're doing this with a team that's up against the cap. That's right. They have spent every single penny pretty much that you could spend in a salary cap league. And they've called players up and down. And the coach says, I can't do anything anymore. I can't make changes to my lineup because of the recalls and because of the cap situation. I can't do this. They haven't had a number 1 centerman in 20 years. 20 years. Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, brought to you by MyBookie. Use code SickPicks for a 50% deposit bonus. Bet, win, get paid. Place your bets on mybookie.ag. At this point, you might as well place a bet that the Montreal Canadiens are not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I thought they were going to make the playoffs. They had 3 games in hand on Calgary. They were 8 points ahead. But now, look, they're 6 points ahead. Now they have 2 games in hand. They're going out to the West Coast. They're going to play the Edmonton Oilers twice. Edmonton has not done well against Montreal this year, so you know that they're going to be ready, and they've been playing well as of late. And then after those 2 games versus the Edmonton Oilers, they got 3 games versus Calgary. Could you imagine if they play Calgary and they have the same amount of points in the standings? You know what's going to happen? Calgary's going to beat them all 3 times, man. They better hope. They better hope they win their next 2 games versus Edmonton and Calgary loses a couple here. Because if they're like within a point or 2 here or even, and Calgary's going to eat them. Calgary's going to eat them alive. I mean, this is a real joke. They're up against the cap and they can't do anything. The coach says his hands are tied. He doesn't know he can't do anything. He says, I can't do anything. What a bunch of underachievers. 3 pathetic performances in 1 week. This is one of the most embarrassing weeks the Montreal Canadiens have had in a long time. And this is an organization that had it not been for the COVID last year and the fact that 24 teams were able to make it to the dance, that they would have missed the playoffs for the 3rd straight season and 4 times in their last 5. No, but this is terrible now. This is really a joke. Edmondson, the puck goes off of him. Nobody knows where the puck is on the first goal. The second goal, Tatar makes a great play. He gives it to Paul Byron. Paul Byron turns the puck over. It comes back the other way. Batherson's looking far, and he beats Carey Price 5-hole. How do you give up a goal like that? How do you give up a goal like that? Then the bang play to make it 3-0. You see those passes? Bing, bang, boom. The assist goes to Brady Tkachuk. Knock, knock. Do you want to hear a joke? They had a chance. They're a team that doesn't get up for big games. They're an organization that hasn't had success in the playoffs for a long time. And they have a warrior in front of them at the draft, a gamer, a warrior, a power forward, a guy who's in your face, a guy who hates to lose, a guy who's nowhere near the prime of his career. And they passed up on him because they tried to fill an organizational need because they haven't been able to fill that organizational need in the longest time So they forced the draft pick by going with drafting by position instead of drafting by best player available. Instead, you draft the best player available, and if you have too many of those players at that position, you take other players, you trade them, and you try and fill the need that you have instead of crossing your fingers and hoping that the guy that's on everyone's list at either 5 or 10 or 15 ends up being a great pick for you at 3 instead of going out to get the guy who was available, who everyone had on their list at 3, 4, 5. No, that guy, not that guy. Not that guy whose brother plays in the National Hockey League and is also a great player, and whose father played in the National Hockey League and was also a great player, and he raised them and he developed them, and they all play the same way, and they're all a nightmare to play against. No, don't go after that guy. Go after the other guy. Like everything is a joke. Like everything is a joke with this team. Is this possible or what? Marinaro, it's my bookie. Go to sportbuffshop.com for all of your officially licensed sports apparel and more. Use code SICK15 for 15% off on all their items. You can get apparel of any team. Any team. I bet I know which one you're not going to pick up based on the way they played. You know what the funny part is? Is tonight, the Montreal Canadiens went up against Victor Mete, right? A player that didn't get into their lineup too often. The only time he got in was when, the Montreal Canadiens had an injury situation. And he didn't play all that much today, by the way. They spotted him. He had over 10 minutes. But good for him that he played on a team that they came into this building and won. Why? Of course, everyone comes into this building and wins. Is this knock the building down, move it, bring it somewhere else, bring it next to Carrefour Angrignon and Villa Sal. I don't know where you're going to bring it, but they can't win in this building. They can't win in this building. They can't win with this coach. They can't win with the associate coach. They can't win with the assistant coach. They couldn't win with the old coach. They couldn't win with the associate coach. They can't win with this gen. They can't win. They can't win. They can't win. I mean, it's unbelievable. Could you imagine losing 5 times in a season to the Ottawa Senators when they suck? Imagine when they're going to be good. Oh, that's right. This team is so bipolar that they actually play better versus better teams and worse versus the worst teams. They were terrible last year versus New Jersey. They were terrible last year versus the Detroit Red Wings. And now this year, they're absolutely terrible versus the Ottawa Senators. But hold on a second. How could you be so bad versus terrible teams? Oh, because you don't get up for them. Hold on a sec. I thought this was a group of self-motivators. I thought that this was such a character team. They now had great leadership. They now have great character. They're great in the room. Great. But the game is played on the ice. I'm great in the room too, but I don't know how to play hockey. I can't believe what is going on here. I can't believe what's going on. And you know what? I said and I maintained that Marc Bergevin in the offseason and in season made some good moves, great moves to help this team. But is this it? Is this the best that they have? I'm going to tell you right now. Make no mistake, okay? They went all in this year. They probably didn't go all in because they were crossing their fingers and hoping that 2 very young, inexperienced centermen, one in his second year in the National Hockey League at 21 and one in his third year at age 20, would take 2 steps forward. But they didn't. So they hoped they would take 2 steps forward, and they hoped that their 3 highest paid or 4 highest paid players would be the best players on this team. They were hoping that Carey Price would be amazing. They were hoping that Shea Weber would be amazing. They were hoping that Jonathan Drouin would be amazing. And none of them have been amazing, okay? None of them. So now here's the deal. Season's not over yet. They better hope they make the playoffs. Once they get into the playoffs, if they don't go very far, I don't know how. But if they don't go, if they don't go very far in the playoffs, or if they don't make the playoffs, at that point, no more messing around here. Carey Price is not going to get better. Shea Weber is not going to get better. This is not fine wine that we have here. That you keep it in the in the wine fridge, or you keep it in the cellar, and that after 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15, 20 years is going to get better. They're not wine. It's not fine wine here. Okay? These are hockey players who have been through battles, have had their share of injuries, and they have declined. And they did pretty well in the Weber deal. But if they want to hang on to him at a much longer term over the next couple of seasons, it's going to look so bad on him that it's going to look bad on Bergevin, that it's going to look bad on everyone. At that point, when you start seeing it going downhill, you have to cut your losses. You got to do something. And I don't know if anyone's going to pick up Shea Weber at the salary he has. And I don't know if anyone's going to pick up Carey Price at the salary he has. They're probably going to have to pay half the price of Price's contract, half the salary. But I'll tell you right now, if they make the playoffs and don't go far, or if they don't make the playoffs, at that point, this team has to start getting younger. There's no use in that point. What are we doing here? What are you doing? The goal is to what? To compete, to try and make the playoffs. The goal is to win the Stanley Cup. You either win the Stanley Cup or you didn't have a good season. That's the way it works in the National Hockey League. It's probably not fair, but that's the way it is. This is it for Carey Price and Shea Weber. This is it. It's going to be hard to trade them. Find the way. I don't care. I'm not paid to take those decisions. This is it. I've had enough now. It's enough. I'm not putting it all on them, but one's the highest paid player in the team, and the other one's the second highest paid player in the team. This team should better. They're better on paper than 19 wins and 23 losses. So there's really something wrong here. So at that point, they've changed the core before. Well, change it again because it's not working. They still have a chance to turn this thing around. You go to Edmonton, you win your 2 games versus the Oilers. You go to Calgary, you play them 3 times, you beat them all 3 times. And then all of a sudden, these losing 5 of their last 8 doesn't matter anymore. Now you've turned it around. But right now it's dipping. It's dipping. It's dipping. And they need to stop the bleeding here. What happened? Well, the other night they beat Calgary. I tell you something, you know who beat Calgary? Tyler Toffoli beat Calgary, and Jake Allen beat Calgary. The Montreal Canadiens did not beat Calgary. And the game they beat Toronto, they played well. The Canadiens, yes. Josh Anderson's a big reason why they beat Toronto, right? Jake Allen was a big reason why they beat Toronto. And I don't know, maybe Toronto just didn't come to play. But right now, this is a real joke. This is a real joke. I don't know how many jokes I told you. This is, once again, another pathetic performance. 3 terrible performances in 1 week, all under Dominic Ducharme. I don't know if Mark Bergevin's got any intention of going behind the bench. At one point, Bob Gainey did this. Didn't work out either for the Montreal Canadiens, mind you. Whatever they do. But Mark Bergevin is a former assistant coach in the National Hockey. Maybe he might have to go behind the bench. I don't know. Firing 2 coaches in 1 season? I don't know. Could you do that? I have no idea. If this was soccer, you know what they would do? They would fire Ducharme and bring back Julien, who had a better record than Ducharme. I can't believe what's going on here. This is. Anyway, that's it for me because I've had enough. I'm about to have a heart attack talking about this team. My mother tells me. It's a professional hockey team. They're professional players. They make a lot of money. They make more money in 1 year than you're going to make all your life. Don't get agitated. Don't get pumped up. You get sick over this. I have intestinal pain. Watching them. I should listen to my mother. She says, don't lose sleep over these guys. Relax. Take it easy. Because if you get sick, they're still going to get paid the amount of money they get paid, and they still won't care. They don't care. Right now, they look like a bunch of guys who don't care. Prove me wrong. Prove everyone wrong. You're Montreal Canadiens. They used to be the Yankees. They used to be the Lakers. They used to be Juventus. And we're stuck in 25 years of mediocrity. And when I've been saying rebuild for the last 12 years, people say, no, you can't rebuild. If you rebuild, you're going to lose for 5 or 6 years. They've been losing for over 25. Marinero, listen to us. It's the Sick Podcast, the best sports podcast in the country. Tell all your friends about it. Like us. Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at The Sick Podcast. Until next time, right now, these guys are making me sick.